Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, adorable neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and so wicked happy that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in that mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, their librarian, the principal, the school counselor. Tell the school bus driver all about the show and let them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict, Audible, CastBox, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. This is going to be a fun show. There's going to be lots of laughter. On Doe, comedian, actor, author, all-around amazing guy is here to celebrate Wolf Girl, his new middle grade novel. And later in the show, we'll be speaking with Karen Steele, celebrating her new picture book, The Little Girl Who Never Listened. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Join us right now from beautiful Sydney and the lovely nation of Australia. Our guest is here today to celebrate his new middle grade novel. It's called Wolf Girl. Please welcome to the show actor, comedian, artist, author, An Do. Hey, An, how are you?
Hello, Jed. It's so wonderful to be on your show.
I'm delighted to have you on. I have great connections. My goddaughter lives in Melbourne. I have a couple of other friends who live in Sydney. Australia is one of those places that I absolutely want to visit someday.
Oh, there's, if you go into the outback, which is sort of the country, the bush part of it, there's kangaroos. You see a nice beach and you think, I might go swimming, but then there's a big sign, crocodiles. And so it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, I hear crocodiles aren't the only thing you have to worry about. There are snakes and spiders and scorpions and...
That's right. But you know what? Most of it's in sort of remote areas, Very, very safe, beautiful country. And you see the occasional kangaroo or koala, and it's pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. We live next to a wildlife sanctuary. Literally, I could throw a ball across the street and get into the wildlife sanctuary. And we currently have a turkey who took up residence in our backyard over the last week or so. And we decided to name it Stella, so we won't be eating it anytime soon.
Stella's got till Christmas.
Well, tell us about Wolf Girl, please.
Yeah, so Wolf Girl, Jed, so, we got a little girl. She's maybe 7, 8 years old. She's sleeping, and it's early morning, maybe 4 a.m., and her mum wakes her up and says, Gwen, wake up, sweetheart. We have to go right now. And little Gwen has no idea what's going on, but she wakes up, and her older sister, mum, dad, they're all packing the car full of stuff, and then they just have to leave home right now. They hit the open road, and there's just miles and miles of a big traffic jam because everyone's trying to get out of there because the country's being invaded, And so I wrote that, and then I realized that when I was a little kid, my mum woke me up when I was 3 years old and said, we have to leave now. And I get on a boat with my family and 30-something other Vietnamese refugees, and we're on a 9-meter fishing boat, Jed, just 9 meters. There's 40 people. We're at sea for 5 days, and we get attacked by pirates twice, and they take everything. The pirates even take the engine, Jed. Oh. But here's what happens, right? Here's what happens. As the pirates are leaving, there's one pirate who Mum and Dad guesses might have been only 15 years old, like he's a bit younger than the other guys, and he was less aggressive. And as the pirate boat is preparing to leave, and they have everything they've taken everything from us, including the engine, this one guy feels sorry for us, and he throws us a gallon of water. And that water saves our lives because we've been out of water for a couple of days. And that 4 liters of water, we share that between 40 people, and it keeps us alive for another couple of days, and then we get saved by a big merchant ship who takes us to a refugee camp, and then we end up in Australia. So that's my story. So then I'm writing this Wolf Girl, and suddenly all of these stories from my parents and my family, it kind of seeps through, you know. So Gwen she leaves with her family, and they run into the forest, and then Gwen slips and knocks her head, and she's out cold, right? She gets knocked out. When she wakes up, her family she can't find her family anywhere. There's no humans anywhere. But there's a bunch of dogs. Over the next few days, she meets a bunch of dogs who have left with their family, and they're lost. And so her and this bunch of dogs and a little wolf puppy become family. And so this little girl lives with these dogs for about 3-4 years. And so she's quite, some people have compared Wolf Girl to like Tarzan, but instead of monkeys, you got dogs, like really cute dogs, like a Chihuahua and a Labrador, you know what I mean? And a wolf puppy that grows into a huge wolf. And so Wolf Girl is like this girl that goes through the forest, and then once she's a little bit older, she decides, I'm going to go look for my family. So they re-enter civilization, and they go on this massive adventure to look for Mum, Dad, and sister. So that's what it's about. It's about a little girl lost with a family of dogs, and she goes looking for a family, and they go on all these awesome adventures.
Well, that's amazing. And your story of escaping from Vietnam is also amazing. And I think I might want to circle back to that later on. But isn't it wonderful that you could take that moment in your life when your family was, desperate to save your life and their lives, and turn it into a story that brings joy to kids?
Yes, yes. What I found is that kids, kids love all of it. They love the adventure and the thrill. And Wolf Girl is about looking for Mum and Dad and missing Mum and Dad. And every kid can, even if you've not escaped war, you might have just spent a couple of nights at school camp and you miss Mum and Dad, So the missing of family is a very real thing that kids connect to. But it's not all, a lot of my books, and even in Wolf Girl, there's a lot of humor, Jed. And again, I draw from real life. So I remember growing up very poor, and I got to have a birthday party when I turned 8. And I said to my mum, hey, Mum, can I have helium balloons? Like Jono had at his party, the ones that float up to the ceiling. And my mum said, they're pretty expensive, son, but I'll try my best. So my birthday comes around, Jed. My mum, she buys normal balloons, blows them up, and then sticker tapes them to the ceiling. so she's thinking that's what's exciting about it, the fact that it's on the ceiling. So me and my friends take these balloons off the ceiling, and we're trying to do the helium voice with these balloons. And my friend turns to me, he goes, my voice is not changing at all. And my other friend goes, this helium smells like chicken curry, man. and I'm there trying to pretend. I'm there going, nah, it's working for me. Because I want them to think it's for real. And then I got another friend. He goes, oh, yeah, it's working now. So I put so much of my own real life into my stories, and my family, just like my family from my mum and my uncles, and they all grew up with during the Vietnam War, so they have amazing stories. And so that's in my blood. And then as a kid, I loved Roald Dahl and Walt Disney, and they're my heroes. And so I've written over 100 books for kids, over about 12 series. And yeah, my dream is to create another world like Marvel. You know, it's a dream, but why not? You got to dream big sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. And one of the things that, as I was researching for this interview, there's a saying that you said that you live by. There's now and there's too late.
Yes. My father. Yeah, my father used to say that. You know, we basically we survive this thing at sea. You know, like there's estimates that 500,000 to 1 million Vietnamese perished at sea. So we consider ourselves very fortunate to be alive. And so I was raised by my mum and dad, and they said, you know what, we were spared. We're lucky to be alive. So let's make this life worth something, you know? And they didn't do it in a heavy way. They were just, my dad used to say, just give it a go and see what happens. Give it a go, kids, you know? And the truth is that he probably had some PTSD, Jed, and so he left the family when I was 12 years old, my father, and I missed him very much. And I didn't see him until I was about 22, 23 years old. So he made no contact, you know. It was kind of like he just disappeared, and he was dealing with his own issues, you know, because he lost three brothers and his own dad in the war. So you can imagine what that does, you know. And so I'm writing another of my series called Ninja Kid, and all of a sudden Ninja Kid is looking for his dad. And I'm not writing these things thinking I'm going to put my life in there. But suddenly the Ninja Kid's gone he's looking for his missing dad, and I went, wait a minute. My own life is really, it's come out again here, and that's okay, you know. I think kids really get that when there's something real, you know, there's something real in the story. I think they feel it, and I think that's why the kids enjoy my book so much.
Oh, well, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I've had a number of people who survived escaping from their country and living in refugee camps, and I think a lot of people would think, "Oh, that's so hard. They're so terrible. You must the rest of your life you must be just focused on all that suffering that you experienced." But I find the opposite is true. All of the people that have been on the show that lived in refugee camps for years are so happy, and they just love life.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting, Jed? That is, you know, because if you're grateful just to be alive, then you're already winning. You know what I mean? It's already, you're already like, this is all right, you know? And then from there, let's see what we can make of this life, you know? And so, yeah, my kids grow up and I tell them stories of my family, and so they love story. They love story. And in fact, I sit down at dinner and I put my stories through my kids and see how they react. So get this, Jed, I sit down at dinner, I said, kids, Dad's got the best idea, right? And I tell them about the Wolf Girl idea. And then I said, and the title is called Dog Girl. And my daughter says, Dad, that's terrible. You can't call it that. And then so I go, really, is it? And then she goes, yeah, it's terrible. So then we brainstorm a little bit and we think, you know what? Wolf Girl is so much better. And so we take out one of the dogs and we stick a wolf puppy in there, which is also much more interesting. And Wolf Girl is born. So I have to thank my children for that little tweak that will make all the difference to how popular this series is. And by the way, I've sold more than 10 million books around the world, and over 1 million Wolf Girls just in Australia.
Wow, that's incredible. We have a lot of authors and aspiring authors listening, and I'm sure a lot of jaws have just hit the floor hearing you.
Yes. You know, it's parents write to us. and kids write, and they even ask for things. They go on, can you put a Pomeranian into Wolf Girl? Can you see if you can squeeze one of those in? Because we got one of those. And so I can't always put every request of my readers in, but it just shows how much the kids love the characters and the world. And I cross over my worlds, Jed. So, sometimes in the stories, another character from another book come in, and it's so much fun. And so the kids read all the different series, and they love the crossing over. It's just like when, I used to love Spidey, Thor, and Hulk, and then, the Avengers came along and they put them all together, and I went, "Oh, how good is this?"
I'm sitting here and you are so passionate. People can't see, but An is so animated telling these stories. It's early morning in Sydney, where he is, but boy, either this is just your natural way of living, or you had about 12 pots of coffee. It doesn't matter what it is. I just love when I'm speaking to somebody who loves what they're doing, what they're creating.
Yeah. So I tell you, I'm double grateful, right? Because I studied law, Jed. I studied law.
Right.
I'm at school, right? And I love story. I love art. I love painting. But my goal is to buy my mum a house, because mum's been raising 3 kids, working in a sweatshop, earning about $6 an hour. And so that's my goal all through my childhood. And I'm at school and I ask around, and I really want to do art and follow my passion for storytelling. But someone tells me, you know what? It's hard to make money with. They're risky. The safer bet is to be a lawyer. And so I decided, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And I got marks to study law, and I do law at university. And so I was that close to becoming a lawyer, which I would have hated, Hey, there's some lawyers love their job, but for me, not for me. And so I wake up, and instead of going into court and getting into a battle, with another lawyer and being all sort of in a fighting sort of a situation, you know what I mean? Like lawyers, they get in and not fight, but, they argue in a way. I get to wake up and tell stories and paint beautiful paint beautiful paintings and draw new characters. I'm always scribbling new characters. I might be at a bus stop and I'm waiting for the bus, and I'll open up my little notebook and I'll create a new character, and I'm so happy about it.
When you're creating your stories, are the images coming to you first, or is it the story and then you create the image?
A bit of everything, Jed.
Everything.
I walk past. I'm in a shop, right, and they got like little figurines. And have you seen that figurine? And it's called See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil.
The monkeys and
the monkeys. And then I went, wow, and just something hit me. And so I've got a bunch of villains, and these villains, they're three brothers and sisters, they're siblings, and they can walk into a bank, and one of them can make everyone go blind just for a minute. And one of them can make everyone not hear anything. And one of them can make everyone not be able to say anything. Could you imagine if you're in the bank or just shopping, and then all your senses are taken away? And so whilst everyone's senseless, and they're called senseless, the 3 of them, whilst everyone is senseless, they rob the bank. Boom. What a cool bunch of villains.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that just hit me when I was just looking at these 3 monkeys, because I was waiting to pay for my Mother's Day card. I saw the little statue and it came to me, So who knows where ideas come from?
That is very, very cool. I love that. One of the stories that I heard you tell was a story about your dad saving his 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Could you tell that story, please?
Absolutely. So when the war finishes, I've got 2 uncles, and they're locked up into what were called re-education camps. And they've done nothing wrong. Just lots of Vietnamese soldiers, South Vietnamese soldiers who had fought alongside Americans and Australians, were locked up. And there's no trial or sentencing, Jed, which means they're just locked up. And so the family don't know how long they're going to be there. There's no sentence, you know what I mean? And so my grandma's thinking maybe a few weeks her sons will be allowed out and they'll come home. And every few weeks a bus comes round to the town and some soldiers get out. And every few weeks my grandma goes and she hopes that her sons come out. And she does this for 4 years, for nearly 4 years. And her sons are still locked up. So my dad, he's got a friend whose dad is actually the weird thing about a civil war is that sometimes your friend down the road is on the other side. It's because, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like California versus New York, and your friend might be from New York and he's from the other side, but he's your friend. He lives down the road. My dad borrows his friend's dad's uniform and paperwork. And my dad, in his early 20s, like 22, 23 years old, he walks into this remote jail and he shows his paperwork and he says, I need to take these 2 prisoners and move them to another prison. And they let my 2 uncles out. And my dad and my 2 uncles go into hiding. And that's when my family make plans to leave Vietnam. We've got to get out of there. Because if he's found out, it's all over. You know what I mean? But there's other reasons why we've got to leave as well. But so that's the stories that I've been growing up hearing, you know. and then when we leave Vietnam, right? So the Vietnamese, our trip leaving Vietnam was successful in the sense that we made it to another country, even though 1 child on the boat passed away. So it wasn't like that was a tragedy, you know. But 39 people survived. 1 child died, which is a horrible, horrible thing. But before that trip, my uncles went on another trip, but it was unsuccessful. And they were captured by communist guards. And they were all punished and put away into, like, you know, these sort of harsh prisons. But one of my uncles was only 14 at the time. And the lady whose husband is one of the communist big guns, she feels sorry for my uncle who's only 14. And she says, come here. And she hides him and she helps him escape. Her husband is a communist guard high up, but she feels sorry for this 14-year-old kid. And she goes, I don't know if this 14-year-old kid is going to make it in this harsh prison scenario. And she helps him get home at her own risk, you know. Yeah. So I'm growing up with stories where, like, the bad guy's the bad guy, but then some of them are good. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and it's real life. It's not always black and white. And so that feeds into my storytelling. I'm very thankful to and then my father, who I loved and I looked up to, left the family when I was 12, and I was pretty angry at him, you know.
Sure. And
then it wasn't until I was in my early 20s and I reconnected with him that I realized he lost 3 brothers and his dad in the aftermath of the war. Mm-hmm. What that does to a person. So then he's now my best friend. But it's those complexities of life that I put into all my storytelling. And in the children's books, obviously, it's not that heavy. But there's the light and shade, and do you know what I mean? There's the complexity, and I think that's why children enjoy it.
Well, I agree. I think kids are certainly more capable of handling tough topics than a lot of people give them credit for. And I think, I think it's a great reason that we continue to read with our kids or co-read the same books as they become independent readers and grow. Having these conversations, I imagine having a conversation about Wolf Girl would not only be hilarious, but would also be able to a great way to bring up some really difficult topics.
Yes. And you know, the thing about Wolf Girl is that I was raised, there was a period in my life where my dad bought a farm because he worked in the fields in Vietnam. When I was about 10 years old, we had a farm, and we had one dog, but this dog was really clever. And he would wander around, and other dogs would follow him, and he'd bring stray dogs home, and then would go looking around. This is before the internet, Jed. You can't just go on and look for like lost dogs or anything. You just went, you drove around, and you took them to the vet, and you asked around and to see if anyone lost these two dogs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And no one claimed these dogs. And over a few years, we ended up with 7 dogs. And I would roam around. Our property, and it was like, you know, the forest and that, with my 7 dogs. And I'd talk to them. They'd talk to me. You know how dogs, sometimes they look at you and you reckon, and I can kind of tell what they're saying.
Uh-huh.
You know, one of my dogs, Jerry, looks at me and I go, all right, you're hungry. I know. Let's go home soon. Mm-hmm. So that's from there, I got the idea of Wolf Girl, you know, or I used to call it Dog Girl, but yeah. It was a combination of my childhood, hanging out with my 7 dogs. And then my daughter was about 2 years old, and she's got all these fluffy toys around her. And a couple of dogs, some monkeys, some bears, you know, fluffy toys. And then I see her sort of talking to one of the dogs, and she makes the dog talk to the other dog. And then I went, hey, I should create something like that, you know? And so that's, and then the memory of my childhood with the 7 dogs came, and the combination of watching my daughter play with her soft toys and my childhood, bang, turned into Dog Girl, which turned into Wolf Girl.
I love it. You know, I mentioned at the start that you're an author, a comedian, an actor, and a painter. Do you have a favorite way of expressing and telling stories?
Yeah, you know what? So, it's like I get a burst of energy, Jed. Mm-hmm. It's like at the moment it's writing. So, my wife and my brother helped me. So I've released about 110 books, and my mind is going so fast with characters and storylines. And I say to my wife, hey, sweetheart, I need you to help me here because I need to capture, put this down now. Otherwise, in 6 months' time, it might not be here, the inspiration. And so I'm very lucky. My wife and my brother helped me. And so I've created over 100 comic book characters. Mm. And guess what? About 90 of them are terrible. But you know, out of the 100 and something, there's about 14, 15 really good characters. And so I have to write that down and build stories around them before the inspiration goes away. Mm-hmm. And I learnt that from stand-up comedy, Jet. So with stand-up comedy, I used to try and force myself to write 10 jokes a day.
Okay.
Now, if you write 10 jokes a day, there's every possibility a lot of them are going to be no good. You know what I mean? If you can write 10 good jokes a day, you're a genius. So no one can do that. But if you force yourself to write 10 jokes a day, in a week you might have 50 to 70 jokes, and most of them are going to be rubbish, but there's probably a few gems in there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I take that sort of work ethic to creating characters. And so I create put out a ton of volume, and then after that, put on the other side of the brain, which is more the critical thinking, and go, these 9 are no good, but these 1 and 2, these are good. These are worth developing, you know? So it's a pretty interesting, I paint as well.
Yep.
My teacher said, the first 200 portraits you're going to do is going to be rubbish. And I took that literally, right? So I set myself a goal to do 200 paintings in a year.
Get the bad ones out of the way.
Get them out of the way. And it took me about a year and a half.
Uh-huh.
Then after a year and a half, I've done maybe 150, 180 paintings, and out of them, maybe 4 or 5 good ones. And after that, I start doing pretty consistently good ones.
Okay.
And I make an awards in Australia, there's the most famous prize. It's called the Archibald Prize. And I make it in my second year of painting, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's all from hard work, Jed. Yeah.
Now, I also understand that in addition to being a comedian, an author, an artist, you're a dancer. You came in second on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. So no, you know what? I'm on Dancing with the Stars, right? But Dancing with the Stars, you're not on because you're a good dancer. You're just on because you're a celebrity, you know? Mm-hmm. And they throw me on this show, and I'm no good at dancing, Jed. I'm terrible at dancing, right? But when I was a kid, my dad, he used to say he's one of those dads, you know, some dads, they just walk around and they throw advice at you. Uh-huh. Not in an annoying way, but my dad would walk in, and when we're playing, he'd go, if you need to do something bad enough, son, there's always more than one way. And he used to say that every now and then. And he showed me how he went in and got my uncles out of that re-education prison camp. Mm-hmm. And so when I was on Dancing with the Stars, I can't dance, but I'm on a show called Dancing with the Stars. So either I get good at dancing, or is there another way? And I figure, you know what? It is about dancing, but it's really about entertainment. Mm-hmm. So, mate, I try to be as funny as I can be on this show. You know what I mean? And I entertain, and even though my dancing's not amazing, I'm a little bit funny, and I do some funny dances, and I manage to entertain enough to survive to the final. And then in the final, my family are watching. It's a big party. They're all watching live. Like 50 people in our house, like Arn's on Dancing with the Stars live, and my uncles have bet on me to win with online betting agencies, and it's a big deal, right? And they're all like screaming at the TV, win, Arn, win. And they watch me lose, Jed. I come second, right? And I call my mum. I said, Mum, I lost. I failed, you know. The uncles lost their $5. And my mum said, you didn't fail, Arn. You didn't fail, son. You went. My goal at the start of Dancing with the Stars was don't get kicked out the first week, you know. And my mum said, Arn, you should try and win it, son. And I said, Mum, I can't dance. She goes, yeah, but you got to aim for higher than don't get kicked out first week. Right. And so when I caught her after I came second, I said, Mum, I failed. She goes, no, you didn't fail. You went 10 times better than don't get kicked out first week. You got to week 10. You made us all very, very proud, son. Aren't I lucky to have a mum like that? Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, my mum used to also say to us kids, give yourself permission to fail. Mm-hmm. And I would go, why would I try and fail? And my mum said, no, I didn't say try and fail. I said, give yourself permission to fail, because you give yourself permission to play a bigger game, to aim for higher things. You know what I mean? Yep. Like I remember, at the start of Dance with the Stars, I was so afraid of failing that I just went, look, I'll set my goal as to, if I survive 1 week, that'll do. That's good enough. But my mum went, you know what, son, try and win. Yeah. And so in trying to win, I didn't win. I came second, but geez, I went a hell of a lot further than not get kicked out first week, you know.
I just had a conversation with my niece who's going back. She had an internship, and she's going back to school, and she's freaking out. And she's like, oh, it's so hard. And it's so important. I have to do so great in school, and I can't make any mistakes. And I'm like, no, you get this backwards, kid. School is a place to make mistakes. School is a place to try things and fall down and get yourself up and learn.
That's exactly right, you know. And in fact, a lot of kids these days are a little bit scared of not giving a new thing a try. Right. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, because they might not be good at it instantly. So that's something that I always try and teach my kids, is that I want you. So here's something else. I'm 11, 12 years old, and I try and be school captain, right, at my school. And I write this speech. And at this time, Jed, you got to understand, I'm a kid from Vietnam. I can't even speak English that well. Mm-hmm. I've got a big, thick accent. Please vote for me for school captain. And I come home and I say to my parents, oh, I didn't get school captain. I didn't get vice captain. I didn't get anything.
Uh-huh.
And I failed. And my dad goes on, you know what? It's only when you're failing that you know that you're sailing anywhere near the edge of your capacity.
Ooh.
And that was something that he taught us all through life, is that if you give something a crack and you just nail it every time, you're playing too small.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not till you go all out and you miss and you go, you know what? Okay, that's where the limit is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was something that my mum and dad instilled in me since I was a little kid. And then I became class captain and I got other things. And at the end of the day, it's been a beautiful childhood, aiming for high and missing. Look where it's got me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People listening didn't get a chance to see what I got. Don has a beautiful home and he has a beautiful view of the ocean. He's right on the ocean. And, yes, if your house is any indication, you've had an absolutely wonderful life.
Thank you, Jed. I like to measure it with how many children write to us.
Mm-hmm.
And how in Australia, we have a thing called Book Week, and kids turn up at school in their favorite book characters. And every year, thousands of kids dress up as Wolf Girl, as Ninja Kid, as all E-Boy and some Skydrag and some of my other characters. And nothing makes me happier, Jed. Nothing makes me happier than when I see those. Yeah, my companies, they collate all of those photos and they show me, and it just makes me so happy. So here's the thing about books. Because I'd come from Vietnam, I couldn't read,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me a while to catch up. And so my mum took me in Australia, they're called charity op shops. What are they called in America, Jed? You know, the shops that sell like people's old clothes and old books and that?
Oh, sure. Thrift stores.
That's the one. So my mum takes me to a thrift store and they have 5-cent and 10-cent books. And, she lets me choose 20 cents every few weeks, 20 cents worth of books.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly, these books help me to turn a fear of reading and writing into a love of words and stories, So if it wasn't for these 5-cent books from the thrift stores, I would not be where I am, So I actually, reading has made such a big difference to me in my life that I partner with a charity in Australia. And last year, I donated 40,000 books to disadvantaged children around Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this year we're going to do more. So every year I want to give away truckloads of my books to kids who might be from, lower socioeconomic or whatever. And then the parents write to us. I get so much more back from giving than what it cost me to give those books out.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I'm sure that there's a lot of kids who struggle with reading, or as we call it here, reluctant readers, who just fall in love with story and with reading by meeting characters like Wolf Girl.
Yeah. Oh, with so many. So some of my books there's a book called Hot Dog and there's a book called Weirdo and Ninja Kid, and they're for slightly younger than Wolf Girl. And so many parents write to us. My son has never read a book. And last night I couldn't get him to put Hot Dog down, And so that's why it gives me so much joy to write these books. And it really, and then because I have a short attention span, Jet. I've got and whilst when I was a kid, that seemed like a little bit of a disadvantage. Now it's an advantage because my books move so fast. Mm-hmm. If I'm bored of them, I know that a 10-year-old boy's going to be bored of them, or a 9-year-old girl's going to be bored of them. So my books move fast. So when I did stand-up comedy, right, I have my manager to thank for so many things. He used to get me the worst shows, like the worst shows at the worst bars with all these guys who were drunk. And to survive, I had to hit 3 or 4 punchlines a minute. Mm-hmm. I had to like make my comedy rapid fire to have these people not, like throw ashtrays at me. I had to, you know what I mean? So I learned to be a very fast punchline comedian, and I take that into my book writing. So every few pages, every chapter, there's got to be 3, 4, it's either a funny moment or a twist or a moving moment or a reversal, like a turning the story upside down. And so there's a lot of stuff going on in my books. And I think, that's why kids like them.
I imagine so. That's why I'm loving talking to you. This is great. What, you have so much energy and so much passion and love, that, I know it's found in all of your books.
Yeah. Thank you, Jed. I can't wait to, a couple of my books have been, so Wolf Girl, is with a company called Foundation. And Foundation produced that movie, The Bad Guys, with the big, the shark and the wolf and the piranha, okay. the cartoon, and so they're turning Wolf Girl into a film. So they're producing. Yeah, so we've started the process to do that. And then my other series, Weirdo, has been taken up by Warner Brothers here in Australia, to be turned into a TV show. And so eventually there's going to be TV shows and films with all of my characters, Jed. I am just over the moon, you know what I mean?
That's wonderful. Now, are they going to be able to sneak you in and get a cameo in any of those TV shows?
I'd love to play a cameo. I would, for sure. I'm there, Yeah, definitely.
Well, you're gonna have to let me know when those shows come out. I'll use my VPN so I can get on Australian Netflix and check them out.
Foundation is an American company.
Oh, okay, great.
And also with Weirdo, we're starting to form partnerships with international companies. So with some luck, the movie, Weirdo movie, the Wolf Girl movie and the Weirdo TV shows will be accessible to US audiences.
Great. Well, I don't think you need any luck because you're doing the hard work that it takes to create good luck.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. It's really hey, is it true that you've done about 2,000 podcasts?
I've done 2,200 podcasts.
Hey, talk about hard work, Jed. Come on. Who's done 2,200? I mean, that is wonderful.
We started back in 2017. It was a labor of love. My son said, you should reach out to LeVar Burton to have him on your show. He's the host of Reading Rainbow and was in all sorts of great movies. And to my surprise, he said yes. And that put us on the map, and we've been going strong ever since.
Well, see, that's the thing is that, the hard work that you've put in to do that many, your questions are insightful and they're beautiful, warm questions that allow me to tell my story, And so you've gotten that good because you've done 2,200, Jed.
Thank you. So it's really been a blessing for me. I'll tell you this, you'd appreciate this. I think it kept my marriage together during the pandemic because when my wife got sick of me, she just said she'd either say, walk the dog or go downstairs and do a podcast. Get out of my hair.
The pandemic was an interesting time. So I'm a stand-up comedian. So I travel around Australia doing shows and that was completely shut down. So I'm at home. And I go, what can I do here? So I created so many of my characters and new books, probably, maybe 6 of my titles were created during the pandemic. So my mum and dad always said, whatever situation you're in, try and make the most of it, And so I have the pandemic to thank for some of my new characters, So Wolf Girl is the girl and her dogs and the wolf. And there's a spin-off of Wolf Girl that's coming out in Australia called Dolphin Twins. And so it's a couple of twins, and they look after some baby dolphins and become friends with them. And so it's like Wolf Girl, but now you're talking whales and stingrays and turtles and cute seals and dolphins and that whole aqua sort of world, you know.
This is great. I have a feeling that in the next 6, 7, 8 months, you're going to create a whole new set of characters and new books, and it'll be a great excuse for you to come back on Reading with your kids.
I'd love to. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Jed.
In the meantime, tell everybody, please, where they can find out more about Wolf Girl, your movies, your stand-up, everything that's happening.
Yeah, so Wolf Girl is sold at lots of book shops around in the USA and on the websites, you know, Amazon and all that sort of stuff, Barnes and Noble bookshops, and yeah, just just want to say to the kids out there, believe in yourself and give yourself a chance. Have a go. See what happens. You know what I mean? Dream a little bit big and see what happens. You never know.
Great advice. We've had a fabulous time speaking to the author of Wolf Girl. It's a new middle grade novel from our guest, An Do. My friend, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you, Jed. Much appreciated.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from the great state of New Hampshire. Our guest is here today to celebrate her picture book. It's called The Girl Who Never Listened. Please welcome to the show, Karen Steele. Hey, Karen, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I can't wait for you to tell us all about The Little Girl Who Never Listened.
It is about when I was little. It's based on true events. I didn't like listening to my mom putting shoes on before going outside the house. So it is about me, who didn't put shoes on before going outside to play, and I get sharp objects on my feet, in my feet.
Yikes! I bet that was not very comfortable.
They were not. It was all like a 3-month radius when it happened. So I saw the same doctor 4 times.
So what did, is this a doctor in the emergency room?
No, it was my pediatrician doctor.
Okay. Because if it was in the emergency room, I imagine after the second time, they might have started calling you a frequent flyer.
No. I went to somewhere in, I think it was like closer where Manchester Bedford line is.
Okay.
And there was I remember this building. It was a 2-story building, and we had to go up a ramp, and there was a door, and then I would see my same doctor 4 times. He told me I need to put my shoes on and listen to my mom, because sometimes, so most of the time your mom's looking out for you.
Indeed. And what was it about the 4th time that when you started to put your shoes on before you went out? Was it just, I'm tired of seeing the doctor and I'm tired of cutting up my feet?
Yep. My last straw was the 4th time. I went outside. My mom saw me put my shoes and my socks on. But when I went outside, I went to see my friend, Nicole. She told me I should take my shoes and socks off and go down the slide. And I says, I don't know if I really want to. I says, I don't want anything in my feet. I don't, like, they're painful. I don't want to see my doctor again. And she goes, I've been on it all day, all morning, and I have not got anything in my feet. I go down the slide, no joke, I kid you not, I go down the slide, same spot, nail stuck there. I actually had to get my friend to go get my mom, because back then we didn't have cell phones, so we used word of voice. She was so mad at me.
Yes, I imagine she would be.
Then after that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't care what anyone tells me. My shoes are on my feet.
And what was your friend's reaction when you went down the same way she had been going down all day long and ended up cutting your foot?
So I did quote it in my book. She goes, "Oh man, you have the worst luck. I've been here all day and I have not got anything in my feet, and you go down and she goes, you have the worst luck." I go, "I know I do."
Now, I'm hoping this didn't happen when you were like 21 or 22.
No. I don't take my shoes ever off, not even in the house.
So tell me it's a really fun and funny story, but what inspired you to decide to tell this story in a picture book?
I thought it would be a way where I could help children learn, listen on what listening is helpful to your parents can do. Because I did not always listen to my mom. I had a part in the book it was supposed to be a part where I ran into a black pole when I was little. I was 10, and I was trying to race the ice cream truck. I just got done seeing my favorite lifeguard. Because back then I didn't have friends, I was bullied. So, as I was running outside of the pool, I heard the ice cream truck. So I tried to run, and then I didn't make it to the ice cream truck because it was on the other side. It was at a stop sign, but to me, it didn't look that far away. So my mom go, "Karen, stop running. You're going to run into that." And before she could finish her sentence, I hit my nose head on.
My goodness. We talk a lot here on the podcast about parents being overprotective and wanting to bubble wrap their kids so they don't get hurt. And we talk about the fact that that's not a great idea for kids. But maybe in your case, maybe your mom should have bubble wrapped you.
She wanted to.
Hey, Karen, where can we go to find out more about the little girl who never listened and find out more about you?
You can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
And then I actually have a website I'm in the middle of creating. So I'm almost done with the shopping part of it. It is called simplysteele.net.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Little Girl Who Never Listened. Our guest has been Karen Steele. Hey, Karen, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. To make sure you don't miss a moment, please be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite podcast. And if you listen on different podcasting platforms, please subscribe to us everywhere you listen to podcasts. We would love it if you would subscribe and if you would consider leaving us a 5-star review. I gotta think that Ando deserves a 5-star review. He was amazing, as was our guest Karen Steele. And you are pretty amazing, and we really are glad that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Ando. Please be sure to check out Wolf Girl. Also want to thank Karen Steele. Please be sure to check out The Little Girl Who Never Listened. I want to thank my fantastic team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Stella Sheree. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.